is commentator Sam Armstrong. Very, very good morning to you.
Good morning. People were tweeting me on Monday, questioning where I was.
Were you?
They thought I'd been kidnapped.
Exactly.
No,
well,
I promise I'm
we
back
had a
here
very
today.
good replacement. We had a very good replacement. We've had, it's always great to get you in the show. I mean, can we just start? There's so much to talk about. Let's just race through it because I'd love people to get in touch. I couldn't decide what to ask the question about today. Normally there's an obvious question to ask about. But, I mean, a lot of people are saying, people in the know are saying, this China spy case story, that this is actually a much more significant story that have longer-term implications for our country, our security, our economy and everything than pretty much anything else we're discussing. But it's kind of hard to get your head around, isn't it? But the fundamental thing is we had two charges against two men, both of whom denied the charges. It is important. These are under the Official Secrets Act, basically. But basically, they needed convictions against Christopher Berry and Chris Cash, accused of passing secrets to Beijing, a foreign government. The dispute is whether or not there was at any point enough evidence for them to be charged, or whether the evidence changed depending on what the government was willing to put forward. And the chief prosecutor, the director of public prosecution, Stephen Parkinson, who's in the job which the Prime Minister previously did, he said that the CPS repeatedly tried to get witness statements from the government that would have shown that China was a threat to national security, which it clearly is, but they failed to provide evidence, and so at some point they had to drop the case because they didn't get the evidence they needed for the case. The Prime Minister expressly denied, categorically, he challenged this claim, saying officials could never have provided that evidence because China had not been designated a threat to national security by the previous government, crucially, in 22-23, when these alleged crimes took place. Who do you think's telling the truth?
What? Can you smell a rat is the question, because boy, can I.
I am absolutely smelling a sort of Diego Garcia Chagos Island style rat.
Absolutely right. Now look, this offence required two things to be proved. Firstly, that there was something that you might consider to be spying-esque going on, and the DPP says, the men deny this, the DPP says, yeah, we thought we had pretty strong evidence on that, but it also required that who they were spying for was a threat to our country. Now, when this case was brought, when the CPS made that charging decision, they believed, yes, we do. Now, why did they believe that then? Presumably because government officials under the last Conservative government had said, look, when you get to court, we will furnish you with the witness statement you need, the sworn witness statement necessary to prove that. Something has changed between then and now. One thing that's changed is the colour of the rosette upon which this government was elected. Keir Starmer has walked in, and for whatever reason, the CPS now can no longer get that classification, that civil servant, to come to court.
But they're saying, look, but they never were. It's very clear that Stephen Parkinson, the DPP now, is saying, you know, they no longer can, as in they had it at some point.
But Julia, that is an allegation, by the way, that Labour would criticise, and I'll tell you for why. The Prime Minister is insinuating that a Crown Prosecutor, who works in the very department that he used to lead, grotesquely, recklessly charged two individuals with one of the most serious crimes in the country on the basis of evidence that he never had. If a CPS Crown Prosecutor has done this, and by the way, the decisions around these cases are taken by the most senior prosecutors, if a Crown Prosecutor had done that, he deserves to be turfed out of office, he deserves to be stripped of his solicitor's qualifications, and he should never work in the legal profession again. There is a reason that the Prime Minister is not calling for that to happen. It's because he knows that that Crown Prosecutor took that decision on the basis of assurances he'd had at the time, and that those assurances have been withdrawn. The Prime Minister is smearing prosecutors who work at the department that he used to lead. It is disgraceful, it is deplorable, and above all, it is incredibly hypocritical, because this is the Prime Minister who says, oh no, you can't criticise the people
it's terrible.
that work in these legal departments, they're making decisions independently. No, you can't have it both ways, Keir.
Oh, well, he always wants it both ways.
We smell a rat, we see through you, you're lying to us yet again.
And they've got form on China, we know this, in terms of the absurd decision over the Chagos Islands. And once again, whose tentacles, whose fingers are in there? Jonathan Powles, former National Security Advisor, senior advisor to Blair. I mean, again, I would say, definitely bringing the band back together. And they've got Tim Allen, who used to be, Blair's, one of his key director of communications, number two.
And who did they have out in Washington? Peter Mandelson, who was in a number of reports, was China's biggest advocate within government.
Forget his links with Jeffrey Epstein and nice letters and wandering around in bathrobes on his island. No. For me, his links with China alone meant he was a security risk. And this is the thing. You and I both know our universities have been bought up by China, Qatar and other places, but China being the particular threat on that front. We know we've got this big battle over the Chinese embassy they want to build, which is like anyone with half a brain has gone, this giant Chinese embassy will become the Chinese spy capital of Europe. This is madness. And the government's going, oh, we might override the local Tower Hamlets Council ruling on that. We've got this sort of, oh, please can we come over for a trade delegation? We know that Jonathan Powell has had numerous meetings with Chinese leaders. They'll think that, well, we're putting British national interests ahead of these things. No, I'm sorry, you're not, because British national interests aren't just economic, they are security-led. This is an enemy country. They have sanctioned some of our parliamentarians, for goodness sake. It's Duncan Smith, Tom Tugendhat and others. It is untenable that we should continue. I mean, yes, let's keep talking. Jaw, better than war. But China is helping Russia, which is bombing our ally, Ukraine. I mean, which part of this are you finding complicated?
Julie, I want to let our audience into a secret. When people go into government, they take big jobs like Director of Communications, big jobs like Mandelson had in government, big jobs like Jonathan Powell. At some point, they get booted out of office. And then they're sitting, twiddling their thumbs, waiting for what to do.
To make some money.
And they want to make some money. And they go, more often than not, in fact, off to the highest bidder, which turns out to be foreign governments that are a little bit dodgy. Now, I'm picking my words carefully here. A bunch of the guys that had big jobs in the Blair administration went off to despotic, pretty shady regimes around the world. Now,
I mean, Tony Blair hasn't been shy about some,
quite.
Never met a foreign despot he doesn't like.
A few mil off this or that stan somewhere in the Caucasus.
He loves the stands.
Now, that would have been fine. I mean, a bit shady, if it wasn't the fact that all of these guys that had been in Blair had come straight back into government, and they're making decisions that just happen again and again to favour their old dodgy clients.
And not just do that, they damage Britain. I mean, there's definitely more to be seen here. There always is. Whenever damage, we're like, oh, there's no story here. There's always a story. Love to hear your thoughts on this. 0344 499 1000. Again, wake up to Islamofascism threat on our streets and abroad. Wake up to the Chinese threat. Wake up to the Russian threat. Everyone needs to just wake up. This whole centrist dad, if we could just chat to people and trade with people, everything's fine. You are living in cloud cuckoo land. You're the ones who got us into this mess. We are going to have to get ourselves out. Everybody needs a wake-up call about the threats we are facing at home and abroad. And anyone who's not paying attention and not waking up to that threat, you are also part of the problem. And it's as simple as that. And people like us have been talking about this. We go, oh, what are you going on about? What's the problem? Here's the problem. And in a few years' time, when China takes over Taiwan, we have to decide, what do we do? You think Ukraine war, you think lockdown damaged our economy and we're still trying to pay all that off right now? That's the basis of everything, every economic conversation in this conversation. You ain't seen nothing yet. It's just madness. It really is. Let's talk about something else going on internationally. Just want to touch on the internationals very briefly, because we're going to talk to a guest about this in just a few moments as well. But there has been these talks in Egypt over Gaza. We have seen an exchange of the names of the prisoners and the hostages between the two sides. The big names, the big players are flying in today. That could give us some hope that there could be a deal. I mean, October the 7th, yes, it's the second anniversary of that horrific massacre. But the aftermath of that, I mean, I was so appalled yesterday watching a load of these protests that we saw on our streets. University campuses, Jewish students harassed. We had, pro-Palestine protesters shutting down Tower Bridge, making blatantly, openly genocidal chants. We had this woman who apparently is funded by us with grants, who cut down yellow ribbons for Israeli hostages in Gaza. She's a taxpayer-funded student. We're paying for her. We're paying for this woman. The BBC put out an internal memo just referring to the October 7th attacks as escalations in the Israel-Gaza war. The October 7th was just an escalation. It was just a couple more rockets, wasn't it? I mean, if you don't think that some of these institutions are not and just ingrained with anti-Semitism, you're just not paying attention. Got this NHS doctor, Mrs. Rama Al-Adwan. She posted a tweet glorifying the terror attack. Blatantly. Then sent me a message saying, don't spend that £7,000 too quickly. Apparently, anyone who's supporting Israel versus murderous terrorists, it's not been a difficult moral call for me, I'm not going to lie. Apparently, we're getting paid. I'm telling you, I would be so rich if I got paid to give my opinions over and above. I get a payment for doing this job, and I'm allowed to give any sodding opinion I feel, and I only give the ones I honestly feel. If I was told to give a different opinion, I can assure you I would say no. I'm pretty sure my bosses would attest to that. It is just extraordinary what's happened. Very, very few arrests, if any. The police just standing by as people dressed as terrorists, literally dressed up as terrorists, masked, shout horrific anti-Semitic things. This is happening on our streets, it's happening on our campuses. Students who, frankly, I'm not Jewish, but if I was a student at university and that was happening, I would be intimidated. I'd feel I can't speak freely without fear of attack. This cannot be allowed to go on. And Keir Starmer says he wants to make the Jewish community feel safe. He doesn't make the Jewish community feel safe. They don't feel safe, and rightly so, because this is now exploding in our faces. We need to get on top of this again, today, right now, this hour.
Last week I had to walk through Liverpool Street Station just after 2 Jews had been brutally murdered on Yom Kippur by someone who apparently is an Islamic extremist. There was There was a protest there of pro-Palestinians, pretty frankly anti-Jewish people, who were stood no more than 5 metres away from the Kindertransport statues that commemorates the Jewish refugees that came to this country fleeing the Holocaust, children that came to this country. We all saw films about it, we all saw clips about it, we all cried about it when we watched those films. I certainly did. And I felt like crying again when I walked through Liverpool Street. I saw the sickness, the rot, the evil that has seeped into our national character. And these people shame us. They belittle our national identity. They betray the sense of fairness and decency that this country has been known for decades, if not centuries. And as far as I am concerned, if any of these people are here on visas, we need to be doing exactly what the US has done and sending them straight back home. We don't want them here. We don't like it. They need to go.
It's a lot of young Brits, and it's not just sort of Muslims who've been radicalised. It is young white Brits, atheist Christians who've also been radicalised. And we need to get to the heart of this. What is going on in our education system, in universities, in schools, what's going on the BBC is broad sweep anti-Semitism on a daily basis. And if we don't tackle that, we are rotting in the core of our nation, and we've got to get on top of it. It's just simple as that.